Right now, before we move on to make this application, we first of all need to install two important modules. So open your command line if you're using Windows and open your terminal if you're using Mac or Linux. So if you're using PyCharm, you can actually open your terminal inside of it by just clicking on this option which says terminal right here, and then just opening it, and it's just going to open your terminal inside of PyCharm. Okay, now the first module that we're going to install is the pillow module. So just simply type pip install and then the name of the module, which is the pillow module, and now hit the enter button and it will start installing that module on your computer. But I'm not going to hit the enter button because I already have installed this module on my computer. But in your case, you just hit the enter button to install this module on your computer, and make sure that you have your internet connection before you install this module. So it may take like a minute or two depending upon your internet connection. Okay, now the second module that we need to install is the PyTesseract module. So it is PyTesseract. So make sure you spell it right. So it is Py and then Tessie and R-A-C-T Ract. So PyTesseract. But before you install this module, you actually need an executable file for PyTesseract. And now in order to download that executable file, what you need to do is that open your browser and then just go to this website github.com manheim tesseract/wiki. And now in here, what you can do is that you can actually install PyTesseract. So depending upon your operating system, so for example, if you're using Linux, then you need to install Tesseract for Linux. And if you're using Mac, then you need to install Tesseract for Mac. And if you're using Windows, then you need to then you actually need to download Tesseract for Windows. And so if you just want to download Tesseract for Linux or Mac, just simply Google this thing, Tesseract download for Linux, and then use basically this thing, which is GitHub. And it will, and just open the first link and then download Tesseract for Linux, and then same goes for Mac. And if you're using Windows, just simply depending upon your operating system, if you're using 32-bit operating system, just click on this thing. And if you're using 64-bit operating system, just click on this thing, and it will actually start downloading Tesseract on your computer. And once it is downloaded, just go to the download section where you have downloaded it, and then install it on your computer. Now, by default, on Windows, it is actually installed in this location, which is the C drive, and then program files, and then actually create this file, which is and here we'll scroll it down if it's not visible, which is the Tesseract hyphen OCR. Now just click on it, and now you actually need the executable file, which is I think, yeah, this is actually the executable file that you actually need in order to run PyTesseract in Python. So now right in here, what we're gonna do is that we will be providing the path of this executable file, which is this Tesseract, which is actually inside my PC, and then C drive, and then program files, and inside of this folder Tesseract OCR, and then the executable file is named as Tesseract. Okay, so once you have downloaded Tesseract OCR on your computer, depending upon your operating system, whether it's a Linux, Mac, or Windows, then what you need to do is that you just simply type pip install and PyTesseract and hit the enter button, and it will start installing that PyTesseract module on your computer. And again, just make sure that you have your internet connection, because they do require your internet connection. And actually, I'm not going to hit the enter button because I already have installed the PyTesseract module on my computer. But in your case, just hit the enter button to start installing that module on your computer. Okay, so let's just start importing each and everything that we're going to need in making this application. So first of all, I'm going to import from KiwiMD, I'm going to import MD app. So right in here, let's say that from KiwiMD.app, we're going to import this class, which is the MD app class. Okay, next, I'm going to import the MD relative layout because this is going to be the layout I'm going to be using for my application. So I'm going to actually need to import it from KiwiMD as well. So from KiwiMD.app.relative layout, not like this dot app dot this kiwi dot app is not like app, it is uix dot relative layout. We're going to be importing the MD relative layout. Okay, next we're going to be importing some important classes from Kiwi. So right in here, we'll just say that from kiwi.uix dot, first of all, let's just import the button class. So dot button, import the button class. Next, we're going to be importing the label class as well. So uix dot label, we're going to be importing this class label. Okay, next we're going to be importing the text input class as well. So from kiwi.uix dot text import, we're going to be importing the text input class as well. Okay, next we're going to actually import the two modules that we have installed, and the first one is the pillow module. So I'm going to say from pill, which is actually the name of the module that we have installed, which is the pillow module. We're going to import the image class, because we actually need to do some kind of processing before we can extract text from that image, and we're going to do it using this class image from the pillow module. Okay, next we're going to be actually importing the PyTesseract module. So actually we just need one thing. So I'm going to say that from PyTesseract import the PyTesseract, import PyTesseract. Okay, so I think that these are all the things that we're going to be needing. And now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a class. And now inside of that class, I'm going to write down my entire code. So I'll just name this class as extracting text app. And now to this class, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to actually pass this class, which is the MD app class that we have previously imported. Okay, now inside of this class, first of all, I will have my build method. So build method. And now inside of my build method, what I'm going to do is that first of all, I'm going to create my layout. So I will just say that I will just create a variable, and now inside of that variable, I will just store my layout, and this is going to be equal to the MD relative layout, which is the class that we have imported previously. And now this function, this build function, would return this layout. Okay, so now let's just define our main method, and we'll just say that if underscore underscore name, it's just going to be equal to my main thing, main, what I'm going to do is that I actually need to call this class, which is actually inside of this, actually this function, which is actually inside of this class. So it is, since it is actually inside of this class, so extracting app, and then in order to call the build method, we actually need to call the run method. And this run method is programmed to call this build method. And this build method is actually returning our layout. Okay, so yeah, that's all we're gonna be needing. And now let's just execute the whole application, and let's just execute it. And you're just gonna see this window, which has some default width and height, and then we have some background color by default as well. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to first of all change the height and width of this window, and next we're going to be changing the background color of this window as well. Okay, so let's do it. So first of all, let's just change the height and width. So for this, we first of all need to import window. So right in here, you can just import it. So I will just say that from kiwi.code.window, which is going to be importing the window class. Okay, next, what we're going to do is that since now we have this window, now what we can do is that we can actually resize it. So right in here, I will just say that window, which is actually this thing that we've imported. And now I'm going to say that dot size is just going to be equal to a tuple. And now inside of this tuple, I can just provide the width and height. So the width will be 500 pixels and the height will be 500 pixels as well. Okay, so oops, if I just execute this application, now you will just see that I have my window is now 500 pixels in width, and then 500 pixels in height. Okay, so now let's just change the background color. So right in here, we can just change the background color using this attribute, which is the okay. So what is that attribute? It is the md underscore bg underscore color, and this is just going to be equal to a list. And now inside of that list, I can just provide the RGB value of any color that I want for my background. Now, if you just want the RGB value of any color, you can just simply Google that value. For example, you just want the RGB value of gray color, and just simply Google what is the RGB value of gray or any color you want. You're just gonna get that value pretty simple by simply Googling it. Now, what I want is that I want light pink background for my application. So for this, the RGB value is 248 and then 200 and then 220. Okay, now this attribute expect the RGB value to be in between 0 to 1, and if you know the RGB value is from 0 to 255, so the maximum value of RGB is 255. So I actually need to divide each of this value by 255 so that I can actually get the value from 0 to 1. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna be doing. And now just execute this application. You're just gonna see the light pink background for this application. And okay, now let's just start putting widgets on our window. And the first widget we are going to put on our window is going to be the text input field, where we're just going to show the text that our application will extract from the image. So now let's just create that thing right in here. And what I'm going to do is that let's create a variable, and I will just name this variable as image text. And this is going to be equal to the text input class that we have imported from Kiwi. And what I'm going to do is then I would just say that text is just going to be equal to nothing. And next was going to be the position of it. So position underscore height is just going to be a dictionary. And for I need to define the center x and center y position. For center x, it will be 0 0.5, and then for center y, so from center y, it's just going to be equal to 0.62. 0.62. This is what we have for the position hint. And next, I actually need to find the size of it. So size underscore hint is going to be equal to none and then none. And that's because I want to define my own height and width in pixels. So right in here, I'll just say that height is just going to be equal to 340 pixels, and then the width is just going to be equal to 480 pixels. Okay, so that's the height and width in pixels. And next, let's just set the font size. And the font size is not going to be pretty big. It will be 25 pixels only. Okay, and then what is going to be the foreground color of the text on this text import? So the foreground color foreground color, all right, foreground color, and this is just going to be equal to a tuple, and in here I just need to provide the RGB value once again and say that it will be 0, 0.5, and then 0. Again, you can just have any RGB value of your choice. So that's the foreground color. And now what's going to be the font name of the text? So font name is just going to be equal to my favorite font, which is the comic font. Okay, so now let's just put this widget on our layout. So I'll just say that self dot layout dot add widget, and this is going to be self dot image text. And yeah, let's just execute this application, and you should be able to see. Okay, so you can just see that we have this text input field, and now what we're gonna do is that we're gonna actually create. First of all, we actually need to choose that. We actually need to create two buttons, and the one button will actually select any image from our computer or from our mobile, so that the user can so that our application can actually extract that text from that image and then put that text in this text import. So let's do it. So let's just create two buttons. Okay, so let me just minimize this thing. And now right in here, the first button is going to be the choose button. So self dot choose choose button, this is going to be equal to the button class, and what is going to be the text on it? The text on this is going to be select, so that the one when the user click on that choose button, it is going to open a file dialog window where the user can just choose any image from which you want to extract text. So that's the text. And now let's just style this thing. But first of all, we actually need to put this image using the position hint attribute. So position hint is just going to be center underscore x. It's just going to be equal to zero point 0.4, and then center y position is going to be right in here. It will be 0.07. Okay, so that's what it is. And now what is going to be the size of it? So size hint is just going to be equal to a tuple, and it will be zero point 0.2 and then zero point 0.1. So that's the size hint. Next is going to be the font name. So font underscore Name is just going to be equal to comic. Next is just going to be font size. So font underscore size is just going to be equal to 24 pixels. That's the font size, and we just want to set some background color for this button. So background underscore color is just going to be an RGB value, and let's just say that it will be green. So that's the RGB value of green. And that is the background color, and I think it's not a tuple. Is it a tuple? I don't think so. It's a tuple. Well, I think it's a tuple. Yeah, it's a tuple, and now let's just say that, okay, so by default, this button will not be disabled. So we'll just say that disabled is just going to be equal to false, which is the default value of it, but we're just going to disable it once the user has chosen some kind of text using the choose button. Because it's now to extract text, so once the user is actually extracting the text, then obviously he cannot choose another image because our application is already busy in extracting text from one image. So that is why we're gonna be actually making this thing disabled later on. But now it is actually not disabled. Okay, now when this button gets pressed, what it's gonna do is that it's gonna actually call a function, and that function will actually take the job of opening that file dialog window. Now we haven't created this function yet, but we're going to create it in this video. So let's just create it. Let's just do it. Okay, so dev and then the name of this function, which is the file chooser. Now at this moment, this function will not do anything. So we're just going to need to provide this thing, which is pass, which means that this function is actually doing nothing. But later on in the next video, we're going to be actually working on this function. Okay, so that's our first button. And now let's just add this button to a layout. So layout, boop, 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 boop. So self.layout.add widget, self.choose button. Okay, so now let's just execute it to see if it is working or not. Okay, so you can see that we have this select button, and now in here, once the user would select something, when the user would select an image from our computer or from his mobile, then we will have another button, which is going to be the extract button. And then the extract button, once the user click on it, it will actually extract the text from that image that the user has chosen using the select button. So let's just create that button as well. So right in here, what I'm going to do is that instead of just writing this whole thing, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to actually copy it, and I'm going to actually paste it right in here. I'm going to actually minimize it, and now I just need to change a couple of things. The first one is the extract, and right in here you need to change the name of it, which is the extract underscore text button, and now I just need to put it on the right position. So it will be extract button will be at 0.65, 0.65, and then the Y position is going to be the same. Okay, so that's the size and font name, font size, everything is going to be the same. Do, 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 do. Okay, so now this thing by default is going to be disabled. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to set that disabled equal to true, and that's because the user will first of all have to choose some kind of text um, using the choose button, and when the user will actually choose it, then we can actually enable it, but by default it will be disabled. Okay, so now let's just add this button as well. So self.layout.add, which is self.extract text button, and now let's just execute this application. And you can just see that we have this extract button, but the user cannot click on it. The user can actually click on this thing. Is just saying that, okay, so since in here we have actually binded it, first of all, this will actually call a function, and that function is going to be the extract text function. Okay, so let's just create that function first of all. And then I'm going to tell you why we were just getting this error. So dev and then in its function, self, and when this thing do this thing fast. Okay, so now the error that we're actually getting is just saying it is actually take one positional argument but two are given, and that's because in here we have actually bind to this button, we have bind an event which is the on press event, so that event will be passed to this function right here, to this function as well, and then to this function as well, because this button is also bind to an event which is the on press event. So right in here, what I'm going to do is that in here it will be that event will be received right here, and that is obviously the press event that we have binded to that button. And now let's just execute application once again, and you can just see that this button is not activated. This is actually disabled, while this one is actually enabled. The user cannot click on this button, but the user can actually click on this button. Obviously, this button is not doing anything because the file chooser function is at this moment is doing nothing. Okay, now another widget we need to put on our window is actually, so say that the user will select some kind of image using the file dialog window, then we're going to actually display the position or the location of that image right here on a label. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a label, and I'm going to actually make that label appear once the user will choose some kind of image from the computer. So by default it will not be visible. So right in here, what I'm going to do is that first of all, I just create that label. And right in here, I'm going to create that label, and I'm going to scroll it down to make sure everything is visible. Okay, so that's label is going to be the location label. So location label is going to be equal to the label class. And what I'm going to do that I will just say that the text on it is going to be empty. Next, what is going to be the position of this thing? So position underscore head is going to be equal to on this thing, and then for center X, it will be zero point 0.5, while for center Y, at this moment it will not be visible, but it will be visible once the user will choose some kind of text, some kind of image from his computer or from his mobile. So at this moment it will be 20, which is the position that is not going to be visible, because the position is only visible when the value is specified somewhere in between 0 to 1. Okay, so that's the center Y position. And next, what I'm going to do is that I actually need to give it a size. So size underscore hand is just going to be equal to 1 by 1, and then the font size, so font underscore size is just going to be equal to 20. Next is going to be the color. So color is just going to be equal to a tuple, oops, not minus, equal to a tuple, and it will be blue color. So 0, 0, and then 1 for blue. Okay, so now let's just add this layout as well. So self dot, oops, not like this, self dot layout dot add widget, self dot location label. Okay, so now just execute this application. You will just see the same thing because this label is no more visible, but we will actually make it visible once the user will select some kind of image from his computer using the select button. Okay, so when the user will click on this button, it can actually call this function file chooser. So let's just start working on this function. So right in here, I'm going to actually get rid of this pass keyword because we are now going to start working inside of this function. Okay, so this function will actually open the file dialog window. So first of all, I will just create a variable, and I will just store the name of that file in this variable file. And then I'm going to actually call a function that is actually, I think we've imported it. So I'm just getting this error right here. So let's just see. Okay, so we haven't imported this thing. Okay, so you need to make sure that you have imported this thing. I haven't imported it, and now I have imported it. So you need to import it from file dialog. You just need to open ask open file because we are just going to open a file. We're not going to open a folder, we're just going to open a file. So that is why you're using this function that we have imported from Tkinter, that is the ask open file. And now right in here, what I'm going to do is that I will just say that I want to read something from my computer. So the mode is going to be R, which stands for read. And next, I only want to open specific types of files. So for example, if you just open the file dialog window, it is going to show each and everything that I have on my computer. But what I'm going to actually specify right here is that just show me, do not show or everything in my computer, just show only the say that the PNG file or the JPEG files on my computer. So right in here, I actually need to specify what types of files you want to see using the file dialog window. So file types, it's just going to be equal to a list. And now in here, I actually need to specify what types of files. So it's going to be, say that it's going to be PNG files. So PNG files, and then in here, what I'm going to say that it will be the name of this image could be anything, but it should actually end with this extension .png. Also, so okay, so this actually means that I want to open PNG files that could have any name. So this is what this static actually means. But the name could be anything, but the extension of it should actually end with .png. Okay, so this is what it actually means, and so it will actually open it, and then the user will actually choose something. And now, once the user has chosen it, now what I'm going to do is that I will just create a variable, and I will just say that a self dot image file, it's just going to be equal to um, self dot file name, and this will actually take the name of the file and then store it in this variable image file. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is that I will now just say that self dot location label, because now instead of this variable we have the exact location that the user is choosing using the file dialog window or using this function ask open file. And now I'm going to say that the text on it, which was previously empty, it will now not be empty, it will now be equal to self dot image file. Okay, so this is going to be the text on it. And now previously that location label was not visible, but now we can actually make it visible. So let's say that location label, so location label dot position hint is just going to be equal to a dictionary, and then for center x it will be 0.5, and then for center y, center underscore y, it's just going to be zero point 0.2. So right in here it will be zero point 0.2. Okay, so this is what it is, and now what I'm going to do is that, so previously my extract button was actually disabled, but now since we have chosen an image, now we're going to actually enable it. So previously we have disabled it, and now in here, once the user will actually choose this thing using the file chooser function, now what I'm going to do is then I will actually enable that button. So self dot what is the name of this button? Extract button dot disable is just going to be equal to false. And then once it is false, the choose function, now the choose button is going to be disabled. So self dot choose button dot disabled is just going to be equal to true. And yeah, that's all we need to be doing inside of this function. And let's just see if you just execute this application, and you're going to see that this extract button is disabled. But when I actually click on it, it is still disabled. But once I choose any of this image, then what it can do is that it will actually enable this button and then will disable this button. Okay, so say that it is actually this image, which is the PNG image. So you're going to see that it's only showing us the PNG images. So that is the PNG image, that is the PNG images. Every thing that is actually showing is actually the PNG image. So say that is actually, we just want this image. Let's just select it, and you're going to see that the location label text is now changed to the exact location of that image, and then the name of this image is IV capital V2 Y dot PNG. Okay, so now you can see that the select button is now disabled while the extract button is now enabled. And now when the user will click on now you can see that the user cannot click on the select button, but the user can now actually click on that extract button, and this extract button is actually not doing anything. Well, what this extract button will do is that it will actually go to this function once the user click on it, and then it will actually extract that text, and then we'll just display that extracted text right here in this text import. Okay, now we're going to actually start working on the extract text function, and the extract text function will be called when the extract text button gets pressed. So let's just go to this function, and now right in here, let's just get rid of this pass keyword because now we're actually going to start working inside of this function. Okay, so first of all, I actually need to specify the path to my tesseract. So self dot, I will just create a variable in which I will store that path. So let's say that path to Tesseract. So Tesseract is just going to be equal to that path. So right in here, you need to specify that path. And right in here, just copy that path. So I just copy it and by pressing Control L and then Control C and then go to your PyCharm once again, you just paste that thing right here. So next is actually the executable file, which is actually this file. So right in here, it is the Tesseract file, where it is. Okay, so that's the Tesseract executable file. So I just named it as Tesseract. So it is actually named as Tesseract. So right in here, we'll just name that file as Tesseract.exe because that's the executable file. Okay, so now we have the path to Tesseract. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to actually specify the path to my image as well. So path to image is actually stored in this variable image file. So let's say the self dot image file. Okay, so now we're gonna actually point tesseract to tesseract.exe. So right in here, let me just add a command because this might be a little bit tricky to understand, and I'll just say that point um, tesseract. So point tesseract underscore cmd to tesseract.exe. So tesseract.exe. And now right in here, I will just say that my tesseract dot, which is actually which is actually that file tesseract that we've imported from pytesseract. So pytesseract dot tesseract underscore cmd, and that is just going to be equal to self dot path to image. So it is actually path to image, which is actually this variable in which we have stored the path to image. Okay, now we're gonna actually open image with pillow. So right in here, I will just say that img. So img is just gonna be equal to image, which is actually the class that we've imported from below, open, and what image we want to open. Well, actually, we want to open that image in which we have stored that path to image. We'll actually go to that path, and then we'll actually open that image. Okay, so once it is actually opened, now we can actually extract text from that image. So right in here, I will just add a command and just say that extract text text from image. And now right in here, I will just say that text is just going to be equal to my tesseract dot image to string. And now right in here, I just need to specify that image that I've opened using this path. So the path of this image is this thing, and now in here I've just opened it. And now in here I just actually need to specify that image whose text I want to extract, and that text will be stored in this variable text. And now what I'm going to do is that uh, I can just only print out that text, or what I can just do is that we have created the text input field. Now the text on that text input field is just going to be that text. So right in here, I will just say that self dot um, self dot image text dot text is just going to be equal to text. And yeah, that's all we need to be doing in extracting text from images. And now let's just execute this application. And right in here, first of all, I actually need to choose any file whose text I want to extract, and say it is actually this file. And now I actually need to click on the extract text button. I'm just saying that. Okay, so we're just getting some kind of error right in here. And it's saying that image to string, and here we're actually getting some kind of error. So point is right not image to string. Okay, so let me just come down right here. It's saying that. Okay, so by Tesseract not image. to string. And that an image. I think everything is looking fine. Okay, so let me just minimize this thing and just check it out. What is actually wrong in here? So I'm actually point, path, and then redirect part to image, opening it, and everything is looking fine. Make sure that C program files, and right in here is Tesseract. So, oops. Okay, so right in here it should be Tesseract and not Tesseract. Okay, so now let's just execute it. Okay, so this time it should work fine. Okay, so first of all, let's just select that image and let's just click on the extract text button, and still we're just getting some kind of error. And let's just see where this error is. And again, at the same position. And okay, so right in here we have the part redirect and everything. Point redirect CMD is equal to path to image. Oops. Okay, so right in here it should be path to redirect and not path to image, because in here we actually need to specify the path to image, and now right in here it will be self dot path to redirect. Okay, so that's all right actually. Whatever you have named this variable, and now it should actually work fine this time, hopefully. So let's just execute it, select any image whose text you want to extract, and now let's just extract it. And now you can just see that is actually this text that has extracted it too quickly. And it's just saying it was the best time, it was the best of time, it was the worst of time, it was age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. And yeah, that's all we're gonna be doing. Now you can just select any other image, and it will actually extract that text and then just put it in that text input field. And yeah, that's it for this application. There is not nothing much to explain, so I'm not going to do the final explanation because it is quite simple, dimple, and hopefully you have understood each and every part. But still, if you have any problem understanding anything in this application, you can just directly message me. You can ask your question in the question answer section. You can directly email me if you want, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.